So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. And today is Friday, April the 15th, 2022. It is Good Friday, and this is Resurrection Weekend. We welcome you to the show. Our calling number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions, because that makes this your show. I've been working with India. We've about got the app ready to submit. Every time we make a change, we have to resubmit to both Google and Apple to get them to approve the change, and that'll take a few days. So he said he hoped to finish it up on Monday and get it all submitted. So before the end of the week, next week, we should have another update to the app. And so if you run into anything else, let me know before Monday, because once I get him working on it, then it's easier just to get it all knocked out instead of starting all over again. But anyway, and we invite you to go to the website, whyagain.org, and click on either the Start Here button, or you can scroll down, click on the bullseye. Both of them go to the same place, and that's where you'll find all of the worksheets. You'll find the poster on how the mind perceives. You'll find PowerPoint presentation, all the other worksheets. Everything's out there. Directions for the app. And so just scroll around and look around and, play with it and explore it, and then let us know what you think. And we also had a global book club meeting last night, and it was phenomenal. And that's going to be ongoing. We won't do it again this month, but starting in May, the second and fourth Thursday of the month, we will be participating with a book club that started over in England. There were at least 40 people, if not a little more, on the call last night. And it's just really awesome to connect with all these other people from all over the country. And it was kind of comical, because what she does, and I'm not sure how she randomly just takes people and puts them in rooms. So there's like 4 or 5 people in a separate room just to introduce each other and to say what you're grateful for or whatever. And she only does that for a couple of minutes. It just kind of ties the group together a little bit closer. And so when we went into that other room, and she chooses who goes where, I suppose, it just pops us in. And Michael and I were in the same room with a couple of other ladies, and come to find out, one of them, it was her first time in the group, but she had gotten Michael's book years and years ago, and so she was real familiar with it. She had a couple of DVDs or VHSs, and she ordered a couple of the Healing Children, Loving Children yesterday. And so I'm getting that out to her today. But it's like the work just expanded. There was one lady who volunteered to do a worksheet, and she did such a good job. I mean, it was Michael, bless his heart, he had to really keep pulling her in, because she had like 100 issues that she wanted to tie into this one worksheet. And so when he would ask her, like what was her goal, and she'd name things that went into different directions, and he'd have to draw her back to, okay, one specific instance here. And one example, it was really pretty cool. It was excellent example of the Hydra, and she was very, very grateful by the end of her worksheet. So it's more like a workshop than studying a book. So we invite you to join us for that. And you can click on either the schedule, and you'll see it says Go Global Online Book Club, or you can scroll down to where the events are on the homepage. And it's in both of those places, so you can get all of the information about how do you sign on, how do you, be part of that. And we invite you to join it. We also, just in case someone's new to the show here, we've got quite a few people on the switchboard, we have 2 things that are ongoing. One is a self-study. It's 90 hours, and it's from the Codependence to Interdependence intensive that we did. And so you're on your own. We send you the video links and the worksheets, and you just go at your own pace and do that. We also have the MindShifters and StillPoint breathing that we meet once a month. and we meet on the second Saturday of the month. So the next one's going to be May the 14th, and then the following Tuesday we get together for a support group. And so that has worked out really well. The group has been really close, and we've been doing a lot of processing. And so I invite you to join in on all of these things. You know, we do the radio show here, and we invite you to talk to us. And but then there's other areas that you can explore and put it to work in your life. You know, if you've not downloaded the app lately, I've mentioned that, you know, we're making some changes, and it's now got, besides 2 worksheets, it also has the Dragon Klingon game. And if you click the commitment button, then there are all of the commitments listed there that you can go to them. The events page will take you to our schedules. There's a more section which we put special links out there, so it picks up a lot of information there. And you can send us a question from any page that you're on. So if you haven't updated that, you know, please do. And like I said, hopefully the next update will be approved by both Google and Apple by midweek next week anyway. And so let us know what you think. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. Thank you once again for the next level of work on the app so that it's functional, available to everybody. It's an awesome piece of technology. If you're not using it, download it, put it to work. One of the, for me, the shining things that came out of yesterday's book study group. Jeanie was just talking
Michael, you have air blowing into your speaker. You might want to turn in a different direction.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
Good. So one of the things that became clear, this was I think the second or third session that this woman had been in, and we thank her for her courage and willingness. She really opened up some big stuff. But it's something that I've heard, and it just struck me in a different way. As she said it yesterday, was finished doing this worksheet, and it was, I mean, literally, this is a woman who's, I don't know, probably in her early 60s, late 50s, and basically a life of a lot of trauma. And we'll put, as soon as we get the link to the video of the session, we'll put it up on the website so you can listen to it. And it took her right back literally to something that happened when she was 3 or 4. And she had done some worksheets previously from the first session that she did. We did earlier, we had done a 12-step worksheet with someone, the one that's actually in the book. And last night we did the 7-step. But here she's done some worksheets since the first session that she did. And we do a very successful worksheet. I mean, just profoundly powerful. And where her mind goes is, you know, another issue's there. I mean, she did a Hydra and uncovered several really significant things in her world and was deeply, deeply moved and appreciative and all of that. But where her mind went, and I've just seen this so often, and I'm realizing it's a power person message probably that a lot of people have gotten her, where her mind went is, well, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. Well, you do a worksheet. Yeah, but I don't know what to do. Here it is. And I had to, like, get kind of, let's say, I had to, at least my construct was, I had to intensify my voice to get through the brainwash of, I don't know what to do. And here's the answer. You have a tool that works, and you always know what to do. And I ended up having to hold the worksheet up to the camera and, you know, here it is. Here it is. This is what you do. You don't know what to do. You're in the middle of your muddle. This is what you do. So that's always the answer, that tool. If you're in some sort of a trauma or an upset, yes, we have many other tools as well, and they're all effective for their intended purpose. But wherever you're at, If you're in a state of confusion, if you're in a state of pain, if you're in a state of turmoil, and your mind's saying, I don't know what to do, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do, then you do a worksheet on your confusion, and you clean up the confusion in your mind. If you're sad, you do a worksheet on your sadness, and you clean up the sadness in your mind. If you're enraged, you do a worksheet on your rage, and you clean up the rage in your mind. Whatever it is. If your mind is presenting you with some form of behavior, and if the behavior is just to sit there and bawl your eyes out, that's a behavior. Behind every behavior, there's a goal. And the goal is what drives the mind to produce the behavior prompt that you're likely following or fighting against, whatever it happens to be. And when you realize that, you've got a tool for that. Everything that involves any form of behavior, and again, even if it's just to sit and cry, that's a behavior. There's a goal involved. And when you start working with that goal, when you realize the power of that goal, there's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, you must become aware of the distorting power of the way you want it to be. If you're in pain or turmoil of any kind, you've loaded a goal in your mind that is exposing for you your pain and your turmoil. If you apply forgiveness in that circumstance, then you will begin to clean out your pain or your turmoil. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how deep it is. It doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter how painful it is. If you use the tool, then you literally access the deeper hidden content of your mind and you step into healing. So that was my lesson last night from the book study group. And it was awesome. I think we had something like, 35, 37 people? Pretty nice group coming out of England. And we had people from all over the world, including a woman that had done some of my workshops up in Maryland back almost, or something in the range of 30 years ago. So it's always kind of fun to see how people come back around and revisit and connect, and would have never thought of connecting with someone in Maryland from 30 years ago on a book study group out of London, England. So mark your calendar for that one. Every every second and fourth Thursday of the month, except for the one coming up. We are only doing one this month. There was only one date available in the calendar. But from here on out, we'll be doing the second and fourth Thursday afternoons at 3:30 Eastern Time. It's 8:30 London, England time. And so that'll be an ongoing study. And if you enjoyed last year, I certainly did. Last year was the first time since I've written my book that I've read it fully. And going through it again kind of wowed my own mind. Some things I uncovered there that I didn't know I even knew back 30 years ago when I wrote the book. Well, it's not quite 30 years ago. I guess it's more like 27 years ago. Close enough to 30. So, and one of the nicest things in it, there were some things I would refine, some things I've learned, some things I'd upgrade in it, but I didn't find one word that was out of place, that was out of harmony with the truth and what I've learned since. Upgrade, certainly deeper insights, but everything that I wrote in that book back in 1995 is fully applicable to the healing process today. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed our session yesterday. I've had a conversation with a couple of folks about it, and the understanding of this sympathetic, parasympathetic dominance, which one is running the system, and recognizing that as you understand that and you understand the signals that go along with it, you can choose to move into that parasympathetic dominant state, which is where your body thrives, where, all of the important functions of the structure, including higher cortical function, higher brain function, including, rebuilding, including immunity, including digestion, including elimination. All of those things are tied to that parasympathetic dominance. And sadly, our culture is so much of it is keyed into pain, and fear and hostility. And pain and fear and hostility signal the mind there's danger afoot. I might get attacked. If I get attacked, I might bleed. If I bleed, I might die. Therefore, I'm going to shut down my capillaries. Now sympathetic dominance shuts down all of the non-essential functions for survival. If you got to get up and run or fight, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have the ability to do that. And it's a wonderful system. I mean, that's so fabulous that the body knows how to do that. But if we live in a chronic state where we allow that to be our condition all the time, hostility, fear, or pain, then the tendency is to start to degenerate. You know, as I said yesterday, the classic picture of the little old man with his head forward and his shoulders down, rounded. You know, he's lost 6 inches from his standard height, doesn't breathe well, doesn't eliminate well. Those are all things tied to the parasympathetic system. And they're things that are not under control, but there are things you can assist yourself with. So a couple of things to help to turn on your parasympathetic nervous system, or pardon me, I should say, enhance its control or the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. So if you would, either lay down flat or sit up straight in a chair, and let's do a couple of exercises that help to bring the body into a more activated parasympathetic state. So if you're sitting up straight and you took your right hand and you put it over to up about the height of your right eye and looked at it, your fingertips, you want to take your fingertips and put them up over the top of your head. So your hand is right on top of your head and your fingertips are gently gripping the top of your head. And what you're going to do is breathe, and you're going to pull your head comfortably. You don't want to stress or strain it. Just gently pull your head over as far as you can comfortably, pull it toward your right shoulder. So your right hand is up over your shoulder, over your head, pulling your head down toward your shoulder. You want to breathe in that position, and now you want to take your left eye, your right eye, and both eyes, point them up toward the left side of your head, as though you were trying to look right up inside of your cranium on the left side. So your head's over to your right shoulder, and you're stretching your eyes. And you breathe deeply so that when you breathe, you stretch out and you open your whole torso. So you're holding your head gently, comfortably, toward your right shoulder, breathing deeply, so you're stretching everything as you breathe, raising your shoulders up away from your hips. You want to create that stretch effect. And with your eyes stretched up, looking as though you're trying to look inside of your cranium on the left. And breathe, and just hold that posture for a minute or two. You may start to feel some innervation, some different nerve flow in your structure. And then gently let it go. Let your hand go. Put it back in a rest position and let your head go back to center and rest for a minute and just breathe. And now we're going to do the same thing, only do it from the other side. So your left hand now, you raise up over your head. You grasp the right side of your head, the top, right over top of your head. So your hand's actually sitting on top of your head with your fingers down the side of your head, so you can gently grasp your head and pull it over toward, this time, your left shoulder. So the left hand is over your head, pulling your head over toward your left shoulder. And breathe. And as you breathe, this time you're going to use your right eyes, take your eyes to the right side And once again, straining them a little bit. You're putting a little bit of extra energy into your eyes, and you're turning them up and stretching them up as though you're looking up through the top of your head, the top right side, and you're trying to look just inside the front corner of your cranium there. Breathe gently. You're gently stretching your head, and when you breathe, you want to allow everything to stretch out and open. So your shoulders are stretching away from your hips. You're expanding everything, allowing it to stretch as you breathe. Let your breath reach all the way down and do that. And just take a few breaths there as you hold your head in place and you stretch. You want to stretch your eyes a little bit up as though you're trying to look right up inside of the top left corner of your cranium. And then let it go and let your head return to center. And just tap into your body. How's it feel? What do you notice? And if you make note of anything, if you notice any changes, when we complete, hit one and let's share what you experienced, what happened. You might notice things happening right down to your toes. This parasympathetic system impacts everything in the whole structure. And it's basically restricted in its activity when we're in a sympathetic mode, fear, fright, flight, or freeze. So we want to restore and get out of that. All right, so a couple more breaths. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some timed breaths, and I'm going to count those breaths for you. And if you would, I'm going to just invite you to follow my lead. We're going to do an inhale through the nose, and we're going to exhale out through the mouth. And we're going to do a shorter inhale and a longer exhale. And we're going to hold the breath for a 3 count. So it's going to go, I'm going to count it. So you draw breath into the count of 5. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath, 2, 3, and then let your breath open and let it go slowly. 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the counting system we're going to use for the breath. So if you would, start to draw your breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3. Slowly let your breath out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 2, 3. Exhale slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, or pardon me, hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you can just go ahead and do your own count as I go ahead and talk about this. And this is a breath that will tend to send a little extra energy to the vagus nerve, which will be activated and cause the parasympathetic aspect of the autonomic nervous system to be activated and tend to move things out of the state of survival into the state of thriving. If you've lived a lot of your life in hostility and fear and pain, then this will be a practice that will be extremely valuable for you to play with and to work with. And of course, beneath the fear and the pain and the hostility for people are thoughts of trauma and pain. And so there's where the worksheet comes in. The AVACEN that we talked about yesterday is a physical form of forgiveness. So the way that it works in going in and with heat, softening the blood vessels at the head of your 40 to 60 billion capillaries, with heat that goes in, and the place where the mind energy of the fear, the hostility, that which causes pain is stored, tends to be in those muscle fibers. You'll notice that if a noise happens that relates in your mind to fear, notice what tenses up. Notice what happens. Everything tends to contract. That's because those capillaries are all shutting down for protection's sake. And again, that's a good thing. The blood supply is going to be shunted to the larger skeletal muscles, the arms, the legs, so that you're able to fight. Your breathing is going to tend to be deeper in order to get enough oxygen to fight or run if you need to. And so if you need to shift your state, if there's no actual emergency, no actual physical threat within your environment, then you don't want to be in a sympathetic dominant state. It's deadly. It's wonderful if there's, cancel the thought, a tiger coming after you. But not very good if there's no imminent physical danger. And basically what the AVACEN does is it injects heat into the palm of the hand. It actually infuses heat gently into the palm of the hand. It's a totally natural treatment. And that heat, after about 10 minutes, when the blood leaves the palm of your hand and goes to your body to be distributed, it takes about 3 minutes before it's back in the palm of your hand again. So if you do 3 rounds of that with your hand on a hot plate inside of a vacuum, which is basically what the AVACEN is, the vacuum keeps the blood vessels in the palm of the hand open so that you can continuously infuse heat. And after about 10 minutes of that, 3 rounds of the blood moving through the whole body, the temperature of your blood is raised by approximately 1 degree. It's about 0.8 of a degree. And that warmed blood pouring over what are called the precapillary orifices or the precapillary sphincters at the head of each of your 40 to 60 billion capillaries, that warmed blood causes those muscles that have gone up fear message with that I have to protect myself message. It causes those muscles to soften and relax. And when they relax, you just opened the capillary head. So, if you think about your throat, you can open and close your throat. When you close your throat, you can't swallow, obviously. There's going to be nothing go down your esophagus. Well, if you're in fear and those muscle fibers are locked closed, there's not going to be blood entering into the capillaries of the particular capillaries that are gone uptight. And literally uptight is a literal thing. Those muscles tighten. And when you let them soften, and that's what heat does when applied directly to a muscle, is it softens it, then you end up with blood flow. When you have blood flow where there has been none, the toxic deposits, the swamp that's developed, if you've been a long time in that sympathetic dominant state, at the head, just inside and around each capillary, it's kind of like a little swamp that's filled with gunk, because the flow hasn't been there to eliminate waste. So when you open that flow over time, accumulated waste, if you think about a tree falling down, you've got this crystal clear, beautiful river, and a tree falls and blocks the river up, what happens? Well, the water's going to find its way through, but it's not going to flow. And if it doesn't flow, then what's going to happen? Leaves, tree branches, gunk is going to start to accumulate around that blocked flow. And then there are going to be organisms that don't belong there that start to, it changes the environment. And the changed environment makes the space for a whole different set of organisms. If you get organisms in the arena of your capillary system, of that system that delivers blood and oxygen and nutrition to the cells, then you're going to end up with cells that are traumatized when you open the flow. You know, it's just like going in, I get out a chainsaw and I cut up the tree that's falling. I clean out all the moss. I clean out all the gunk. Now, I might not get that done in 10 minutes. It might take me some time if that tree's been there a long time. So over a period of time, what you'll find is that those capillaries open and blood flow is restored. Once they're restored, one of the most important functions of the parasympathetic aspect of the nervous system is regeneration, is rebuilding tissue, repair, healing. Tissue doesn't heal in protection mode. You know, if you think about a city, and you know, on a normal day, you know, the lawn man shows up to cut the lawn. The guy like me is sitting out in the backyard and he's watering the garden. The garbage man comes by and picks up the garbage. The gasoline delivery truck delivers gasoline. People are out doing their shopping. The stores are open, etc. But if somebody calls in and says, "Oh my God, there's going to be a bomb dropped on the city," what happens? City goes into protect mode. The garbage men go home. People don't sit out in their backyard and water the guy who's doing lawn service. Says, "Oh my God, there's liable to be a bomb drop. I'm not going out today." And so things are inhibited, and that's what happens when we go into this sympathetic dominant state. And restoring the parasympathetic dominance is just monumental in its impact on health, like beyond imaginable. You know, probably the most profound story, and perhaps she's listening, is a young lady that we've worked with for many years. And the lawn man, I use that example because the lawn man did just pull up, and so I'm going to stop watering the lawn, and I'm going to step inside because it's noisy. So excuse me for just a second. I just started up this machine across the road, and it's loud. So just bear with me for a moment while I turn the water off here. We've got a gorgeous sunny day. It's probably about 60 degrees, but the sun's really bright, and it's beautiful here. Green, these beautiful, sweet, bright, youthful green colors coming out on the trees. And our cover crop, our buckwheat sprouts are growing. Uncovered them this morning to take a look, and they're about a half an inch long. Just sowed those a couple of days ago. Getting ready to plant tomatoes and cucumbers and carrots and asparagus, all kinds of neat stuff. I'm stepping getting into a quieter environment. That should be a little better. So when we open that flow, the gunk gets cleaned out and every aspect of health is impacted. The woman I was referring to is a woman who started to use the AVACEN about, it's probably a year or so ago now. And she had been in several workshops over the years and had polio when she was a child. So she had post-polio syndrome. And she had had 4 joint replacements in her latter years due to post-polio. And she had a shoulder injury that left her with excruciating pain that was so intense that she could not pick up a glass of water and drink it with that arm. The shoulder was so traumatized. And went to her doctor, and her doctor said, "Well, you're going to have to get a shoulder replacement. We're going to have to do another joint because this is bone on bone, and there's nothing we can do about it." 2 months into using the AVACEN, she was getting ready to move, and she used both arms and hands to pack boxes and load them in her car, get her house pack to move, and carried the boxes out to her car, carried the boxes back into her new home, would be able to pick up a glass of water and easily drink with zero pain. This was a joint that was diagnosed as needing to be replaced. And I could go on story after story after story that from people who've experienced the changes that awesome little device does. It's the only thing I know of that everybody who does it, God, I love my medical treatment. I love the side effects I get because the side effects just go on and on and on. You know, when Jeanie and I first met, Jeanie was dyeing her hair with, every 6 months to go in and get her hair dyed because of gray roots. And back, that was 18 years ago. But when COVID started, we both stopped going to hairdressers. And that was just about the time when we started using the AVACEN. Well, Jeanie really doesn't need to get her hair dyed anymore, because if you look, you'll see, probably about, 2.5 inches or so, honey, of your hair from the root up is dark again, restoring nutrition to deeper parts of the structure. And that's one of the things that happens. We've had several people report that, including myself. The dark roots start again. So it's a pretty cool device. And if anybody's interested, of course, we distribute the device. And if you want some information, we'd be happy to talk with you about it. So beyond that, is there anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up, sweetie, or anybody in the chat room with a thought for us?
There is a hand up. It's area code 541. You're on the air. Is this Linda?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I hardly ever get online, huh? I wanted to ask you, Michael, a long time ago when I first told you I had a problem breathing out, you said something about a lockdown breath. And I still have a problem breathing out because, I get really, really panicky if I have to breathe for 8 steps, or if I have to hold after breathing out, like some breathing disciplines have you do.
Right.
I'm fine breathing in. I'm fine holding for a certain count if it's not too long between the in-breath and the out-breath. And I have a very difficult time unlocking my out-breath.
Right.
I'm sympathetic almost all the time on some level or another that I may be unaware of. So do you have any thoughts on that? Oh, and by the way, in which direction, when you're tilting your head to the side and looking up in the opposite direction, which direction works with the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic system, and which side works with the sympathetic system?
It's not side to side. Each of them is a stimulus for the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic. Whether you do it over to the right or to the left, they both are.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So in the context of today's conversation, what would you advise your friend who just said to you what you said to me? What would you advise them in the context of today's conversation?
Well, other than doing a worksheet around it, I'm not sure.
There you go. So panic is a form of fear. So there's some mind energy with fear around breathing. And so I'd suggest you dig out the worksheet and start cleaning that up. Get to the root of that fear, whatever that's about.
And what do I use as the trigger? Not being able to take a breath?
Well, Jeanie does a thing where she talks about backing into a worksheet. And backing into a worksheet means, I'm not sure where to start. And so what you do is you start with, what is it that you want? Oh, I'd like to be able to breathe freely and easily and do an exhale that lasts as long as I want it to. Be it. I'm not saying that's it. I'm just saying that would be a logical one. So that would be what you'd start the worksheet with. So in step 3, you'd write down your goal. And then, having backed into the worksheet, you've got a starting point, and then go back and do all the steps in between.
All right, I can do that, and I will. The
Cool.
other thing I wanted to share with you was when I was studying Touch for Health, and they were doing muscle checking,
right.
They mentioned a term. They had a term called galvanized. And that's when a person would breathe in, hold the breath to make themselves strong so that the test would come out positive. And so there's something there about the in-breath was fine. Like I was trying to make space or room for myself or strength for myself or resistance for myself or whatever it was. So any thoughts on that?
Yes. Do you hear how that conversation ties into what you were sharing with us yesterday?
Yes.
So remember yesterday you were talking about how...
But elaborate a little bit for me because it's very dim.
Well, yesterday you were talking about how there's no space for you.
Right.
And that's exactly the word that she used just now.
Space. Yeah.
Ties right in together, yes. So I'd say putting all that together. And how about a mind shifter?
Let me get a pencil and paper. Okay.
It is safe, healing, and comfortable. Whoa, I don't know what all that noise is, but...
Oh, that's my writing. I'll go over here. Go ahead.
I think it's her pencil.
Yep.
Okay.
I just moved it.
That's a heavy-duty pencil. Okay, so it's safe, healing, and comfortable for me to take a deep breath and hold it until my body forces me to breathe again. So that will probably help you to open up and look at some of the underlying dynamics there.
Breathe again.
And for anybody that's listening, go ahead.
I can tell you that there was a tinge of panic just from listening to that.
Yeah. So that's what you want. So that's the first thing you put on the right side of the page. Just hearing that mind shifter was a tinge of panic. And I was just going to start to explain to anyone who might be new to the show, this is a tool that we teach, a mind shifter. And what you do with it is you take a thought, like the one I just gave to Celinda. You take a piece of paper and divide a page in two. On the left-hand side of the page, you write the mind shifter. And then on the right-hand side, you just write anything that comes up in response to it. When you finish, when you run out of things to write, you write the mind shifter again. You write the mind shifter again until something else surfaces, and you write that on the right side of the page. And you give yourself space, something like this that sounds like it's probably a pretty deep and important issue. I'd suggest you set aside a time frame of maybe 3 or 4 hours where you're isolated, you're on your own, your phone's off, and you just write and let whatever needs to come. Let yourself get into the subtlest spaces so that you can be aware of everything moving in your mind. And there'll be things moving in your mind that you've probably spent your whole lifetime hiding from.
And the thought of 3 or 4 hours is what it evoked was the only way I can get 3 to 4 hours is not sleep.
Put it on the right side of the page.
Okay.
And you might look at, you don't need privacy. I know that you live in a trailer, and, you could say, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to go back into the back where the bed is, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to just write for a time period. If you just let me have my space, there you go. And if that brings up things, that's what you want to put on the right side of the page. That's all tied in with this thing about holding your breath. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm trying to make some sort of internal space for myself to just be.
Yep. And that holding the breath has to do with this, as you said, the trigger word was space. It all ties together. And notice that you've set your life up so that you're in a confined space with another person.
Right. And also the other thing is so I can be powerful. That's the other trigger word. I mean, the other word.
Interesting.
Powerful. I can have some power. I can have some say in my life. Yeah. It's connected with that lack of space.
Yeah.
Sense of being overwhelmed or overridden or over whatever. I can't.
Are you writing all this?
Right.
Are you writing all this down?
No, I'm listening to you.
No, you're speaking, and this is what you're touching. This is what's moving in you as you think of this mind shifter. This is the stuff you need to be jotting down. This is where your work is. You've just told me a whole series of things about how you have no power in your life, you have no say in your life, and those things are, I understand, constructs of your mind. I don't know whether they're accurate and true or real, or whether they're just perceptual constructs that you've been stuck with, maybe, from childhood. It sounds like it might be a power person issue. If you had no space with your power person, you had no control. You couldn't do anything. And if you did anything on your own, if you made a choice, then there was probably some negative message that came to you about making a choice.
Yeah.
And then lots of consequences. So you might want to be aware of how perhaps you impinge on other people's lives with those consequences, because they've probably become power person dynamics, or they are power person dynamics. And when the stress is up, much as you hated it when your power person did all those things to you, gave you all those messages, told you what was wrong with you, and just basically crapped on everything you wanted to do, be careful how often you send that message to other people.
Yes,
and have that kind of negative response when anyone does anything. Unless somebody's really conscious, most people don't like to hang out with those kind of messages.
Right.
People run away.
No, I'm very aware that I have dumped on people exactly the way, especially any situation where I felt I had more power. That's where I dumped. Otherwise, I was a good little pleasing, propitiating person. Yeah. So what you just told me is that very likely your power person was relatively vicious and unprincipled. Relatively. Yeah. And so notice what you become. It wasn't like I was physically abused, other than that one event that my mother claimed that she did. I was never physically abused after that, because I guess I learned my lesson really well, and she didn't have to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people who have to do everything right, and it's way, way, way gone in far, far memory, have hidden from themselves the retribution that occurred when they made what their power person told them was a mistake. And if you go into fear and trembling around someone that you admire and say, oh, this is a great person and they're so wonderful, but you go into fear and trembling when you think about doing anything to go against what their goals, that's what happened. But it's so far back in memory, it's so dissociated from that. Yeah, and you got to get brave enough to let that surface, and you've got to be disciplined enough to step out of the power person behavior, doing the thing that your power person did to you that you hated the most, in order to try and feel some semblance of power. But all it will do is destroy your physiology, because the energy of that kind of negativity and disapproval is hard on the physiology of the person engaging in it, and it's hard on relationships. People don't like to hang out in that space where every time they turn around, they're told what's wrong with them and what they're doing is wrong, and how, in effect, they're stupid because I know better and you don't, and therefore what you're doing is wrong. And if that's the continuous message. It takes somebody pretty conscious to hang out with that and stay connected to love. It's a big piece of work for someone on the receiving end of that kind of abuse to do. And notice
Exactly.
how you escaped it because it was horrible to put up with it. Now, when you do it, it doesn't seem horrible because you're on the other end of it and you tell yourself a different story. But when you do it to somebody else, it's still horrible.
It's horrible for me after I do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
yeah. In the moment of stress.
Yeah.
In the moment of stress, the mind will do anything and call it right. Anything.
Right. Exactly. And that's my process, and that's why I shared with you about my left arm shaking. And I know what it is. Anytime I stand up for myself, even in an atmosphere of love, my arm shakes. I get very nervous. The only time I sweat, unless it's extremely hot or humid, is when I'm nervous. Yep. That's the only time I'm hot. Yep. Only time I'm hot.
So breathe. Are you breathing into that?
I just started.
Good.
Breathing.
Nice. Awesome.
Because I'm committed to healing, totally 100%, and it's just a matter of my continuing to get up and do it again. Get up and do it again.
I understand. And something that will enhance it is taking the time to do those 2 simple exercises I just gave you so that your thrive mechanism is turned on, and that will give you more centered power.
So
the sympathetic dominant state gives you strength. The parasympathetic dominant state puts you in your power. A lot of people confuse the two, and they think strength is power. Strength is not powers. Those who have to use strength usually are in weakness. You know, it just boggles my mind. You see all these books out there, especially in this political time where there's all this totalitarianism and all these authoritarians who want to take over countries and such, and people talk about them as strong men, like what Putin's doing today. To me, Putin is a symbol of the weakest, wimpiest, most compromised man in the world, that he would do what he does and pretend that he's powerful to do it. He's got the strength, he's got the control of an army, and so he can do those things. But an actual man of power would even think of going into a country like that and slaughtering innocent women and children. That's not a strong man, that's a weakling. But when we mix up strength that comes from sympathetic dominance, and I can only imagine that someone who's in that position of a weak man, as I would call them, has been so thoroughly abused in their lives that they can't get out of the sympathetic dominant state. They're in continuous fear, and they're suffering physiologically and psychologically, and the behavior tends to be insane. And unfortunately, the world calls them strongmen instead of identifying them honestly as what they are.
Here's an interesting thought, Michael. When it's us, we're strong. When it's the other, they're strong-arming. When it's us, we're strength. We have strength, so we're strong. But if somebody else is strong-arming us.
Yeah. If you remember from the Codependence Intensive, that when somebody plays out, that third level of behavior, when we're ultra-stressed, we'll do what if we haven't resolved it, we'll do what our power person did to us that we hated the most. But what we do is we tell ourselves a different story about it. As you say, when my power person did it to me, they were strong-arming me. But now that I'm doing it, I'm just displaying my power and showing people how in charge of life I am, and this is wonderful. And it's all a perceptual lie. It's all a construct in the mind. But that's a standard issue every time somebody does a power person behavior. They tell themselves a different story that justifies them doing what somebody else did to them that they hated the most.
You know what I call it? I call it the honey bucket. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
I was in Japan in 1950 during the Korean War as a dependent when I was 5 years old. And the military men, the Japanese at that time, would go around and picked up what was called night soil every morning from all of the houses so they could go put it on their field. So instead of it being called a
waste product.
Waste product, a waste bucket, okay? Waste bucket, they called it a honey bucket.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I am familiar with that. I know that people who, septic tank companies that go around pump septic tanks, they'll oftentimes call their trucks honey buckets. So, yeah, I have heard that.
Oh, I never heard that one. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we got it. And I know the two things that I want to make sure that I understand, the two things you told me to do is to do the MindShifter and the worksheet. Is that right?
And the two exercises for enhancing the function of the parasympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system.
The tilting the head to the right and left. And
the breathing process. Mm-hmm.
And the
They'll
breathing
both tend
process.
to activate and stimulate the parasympathetics.
And that's the one with holding the longer
and cause the sympathetic dominant part of the system to open up. Let go.
Okay. Calm down. Calm down.
Step out of fear.
Okay, cool.
Let go of the fear, fight, flight, freeze mechanism.
And the flight is part of the panic. Okay. Which happened to us when we were up at the park, up on the mountaintop. Larry was driving the car down the road, and there was a really steep cut on the right side, and he looked up just before he got there, and there was a whole herd of elk who had apparently been panicked by thunder, and they were jumping over the steep cut, and they were falling down on the road and everything, and if he'd have been just 30 seconds sooner, he would have been inundated by a whole herd of elk.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that's
I'm glad you're safe.
About panic. Oh, we're safe.
Yeah. Good. Cool.
Always protected, Michael.
Yay.
Thank you.
That's what we're designed for.
Oh, and
created by someone whose only purpose is for our good.
That's right. May I ask one quick question? Were you and Jeanie able to get the revision for that commitment to myself yet? I'm just waiting patiently.
It is sitting on my computer, and my list has been beyond what I've been able to handle.
No problem. Just want to make sure that I know when it's done, and then I will incorporate it.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Well, anything else we can support you with? Any other thoughts?
No. I know what my work is, my homework is. Home play.
Sweet. All right, young lady, have a blessed one. Lots of love. Tell Larry I said hello.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, and we're down to the last minute or so I'm just going to say thank you. Any last second thoughts for you, sweetie, before we close the show up? All right.
Nope, go for it.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and create the best year yet of your eternal life. It is an awesome gift to give the world, and you have the power to give it. The world needs it. Go for it. Blessings. Bye-bye.